Modern-day black women might be described as strong and confident. In other words, just the opposite of Issa and Molly. As the best friends deal with their own real-life flaws, their insecurities come to the forefront as together they cope with an endless series of uncomfortable everyday experiences. The comedy series looks at the friendship of two black women in a unique and authentic way. It features music of both indie and established artists of color and touches on a variety of social and racial issues that relate to the contemporary black experience.
This week on You've Never Seen That, Insecure.
From Atlanta, Fulton County.
Have but one objective.
The color I see. Then you maintain the status.
December 7th, night.
You never seen that!
You're in a
You never seen that!
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the You've Never Seen That podcast, the show where two dudes watch a random episode of a random television series we've never seen before, and we discuss the plot, the characters, and the fandom surrounding it. First and foremost on everyone's mind, what are you doing?
Don't worry about it.
Did you not fill up water before this? And you're okay, all right. Who am I? For those of you watching and can see me pointing at myself, I am Dr. Michael Haas, one of the two sexy faces and voices that lead this podcast.
On the other side of this, I was going to say sexy table.
Sexy table.
Oh boy, this sexy voice belongs to your boy Bell, as always. Man, can I say something right away? Just right off the top?
Yeah.
Have we, since doing this podcast, have we ever had this many consecutive horny shows?
Horny shows.
The last 3 or 4 weeks have been so horny.
Wait. Are you saying that they were horny in space?
Oh, I guess not. That one wasn't that
It wasn't too much horny in space, but you are correct. There has been a lot of horny
it's been like
in a very
3 out of 4 episodes have just been
small amount
about
of time.
Just been about sexual frustration.
I don't know.
And also, that's not what this podcast is about.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah. Hey,
It's just
Shonda Rhimes.
It's just a luck of the draw. You know?
Shonda Rhimes and everyone else who's involved in this.
Issa Rae. We're looking at you.
I was trying to think of the other podcasts or other episodes we've done that were horny, and all I could think about was all the ones that were decidedly not horny. Like, my brain could have said, like, we watched
Wizards of
I was immediately like, oh, young Sheldon, boy was he horned up.
No, I just, this week, not last week, the weeks before that, it's just been like, is all of TV like this?
Yeah, How to Get Away with Murder, that was super horny. Big Little Lies was super horny.
I don't
End
know.
of the fucking world was pretty horny.
I just feel like, people who are...
Gravity Falls was super horny.
People who might be new to this podcast might be like, why are they just picking all the weird sex shows? And I'm like, send your complaints to producer Josh. He's the one that pulls shows out of the hat. This week we watched...
We just put Sex Diaries in the hat too, so...
It's not a show.
No, the best part is no one knows.
No.
Like, it very well could be. I don't even...
There is a show on Netflix that's one of the trending shows. It's just called Sex Life.
Ah, there we go. See? Perfect. I was so close and I didn't even try.
You know what it is? That pandemic just really...
It's that dang horndemic really just riling up everybone's business.
This week we watched the HBO...
It's called Sex/Life. Thank you.
Yeah. Put it in the hat.
Yeah, put it in the hat. We might as well at this point. We'll get it next week. Who knows?
We watched the HBO original series Insecure, which could have also just been called...
Insecure.
It could have just been called Awkward and Horny. That's what it is.
I like yours better.
Although, when you think about it, that is where the insecurity comes from.
Yeah, the awkward and horny.
Issa Rae, the main character, or Issa D in the show.
Yeah.
She is very horny, very awkward. Yeah. She's insecure. It's a perfect title for the show.
Yeah.
Episode...
that's because the perfect storm was already taken.
Right.
That was,
This was...
horny and awkward. That's just the perfect storm.
This was season 2, episode 4, titled Hella LA. The thing that we noticed when we were looking at the titles of the episode is that every
This
episode...
isn't a My Chemical Romance song?
No, it's not. Every episode is hella something, right? So this one is titled Hella LA. I'm looking at the other titles here. We've got...
There's like Hella Shook is, I think, the episode after Hella LA.
Right. So I did some more research.
Uh-huh.
And it turns out every season has
Yeah.
a theme. So
okay,
season
okay.
2 is Hella.
Yeah, gotcha.
Season 1 is blank as fuck.
Oh!
Insecure as fuck,
Insecure
messy as fuck.
Okay.
Uh,
What's season 3?
Season 3 is ends with like, so better like, backwards like, familiar like.
Okay, all right, okay.
And then season 4...
This is great content, by the way.
Season 4 is low key.
Oh, yeah, this is low-key great content.
Low key thankful. Low key losing it. Low key moving on.
What's
And then the next episode is actually just an episode of Loki, which I think that's very...
low-key variant?
Yeah, Issa Rae is a Loki variant. That's a weird episode. Loki's having a threesome.
It's just horny Tom Hiddleston.
Oh boy.
Wait, what's episode? What's season 5? Is it not?
Season 5 I don't think has aired yet.
But does it have a theme?
We do not know.
Oh, they're just untitled episodes.
Has not aired yet. Season 5 is the upcoming season. It is going to be the final season.
We can
of
all
the
find
show.
out together.
But yeah, so we were definitely wondering like why the titles of the episodes were named that way. Now it makes sense. It's kind of just...
Wait, you say we were wondering. I wasn't necessarily wondering. I just kind of accepted that as fact.
Producer Josh pointed it out last week, and we were like, because, you know, hella is a very West Coast thing.
Yeah.
We don't say hella here. What Midwesterners say,
Ranch? Is that
can we make sure that every podcast ends with Ope Ranch?
ranch?
We watched an episode of Insecure.
Ranch.
Ranch.
Oh, that's the name of our production company, Ope Ranch Productions.
That's actually
It's not bad.
That's actually not bad.
Not bad.
Um,
It can fund youth pastor and magic pie.
let's dive in the way that we always do and talk about our knowledge of this show. What did you know going in before watching this?
One commercial before Game of Thrones one time. That was it. That was literally all of it. And it was so much so that I'd forgotten that I'd seen that commercial when we pulled it from the hat. I literally thought I knew nothing about this show. And then as we read the description at the end of last episode, it like
clicked a little bit.
A little bit, to the point where I was like, you know what? I remember there's one of the early commercials for season 1 was Issa Rae riding around in a cab.
Yep.
And she's like talking to her phone.
Mm-hmm.
That I remember that. Insecure.
That's the show.
Yep.
So I knew it was Issa Rae. I'm a huge Issa Rae fan. She is like a freaking, entrepreneurial juggernaut when it comes to like writing and producing shows.
I was gonna say, well, when you have your own HBO show,
yeah,
yes,
she was actually in a rom-com with friend of the podcast Kumail Nanjiani.
Yep, yeah, longtime friend,
and it was like right in the middle of the pandemic where like people didn't know how to release their movies because they were done, but they had no way to release them.
Yeah, the Eternals.
And so they actually put it out on Netflix. I believe it is titled Lovebirds. I watched it.
No, it's Sex/Life.
I watched it. It is fantastic. If you haven't seen it, it's on Netflix. Watch it. Issa Rae and Kumail Nanjiani as a couple is just delightful. But actually, I knew a lot about the show. I knew a lot.
It's Love/Birds.
God damn it. I knew a lot about Issa Rae. I knew a lot about this show. I knew that this was going to be a show that I was going to like because it falls into the same vein of like this. I don't even know what you would call this genre.
The Lovebirds it's on Netflix.
Right. I don't even know what you would call this genre. It's like this kind of woke slice of life, like
contemporary urban slice of life.
Yeah, there's a lot of shows that fall into this category, and
like
those,
Friends.
No.
What?
But shows like Dave,
yeah.
Rami,
Yeah.
even like what's the Aziz show?
Master of None.
Master of None is
Yeah.
very much similar to this.
Yes, you can
Um,
see it.
Where it's kind of this like woke progressive. I live in New York and go on dates, and like even that show Girls, like I really enjoyed that for a minute.
Yeah.
And then it got kind of whatever. But there's a whole genre of these shows, and I was like, I like these shows. I like Issa Rae. I know I'm gonna like this show, and I don't want to get too far, but
If I'd known,
there are some things that happen that I cannot wait to talk about.
yeah, you know what? I didn't draw the Master of None parallel, but
Very
I
similar.
totally see it now.
And Issa Rae is like, this is kind of her writing style. She's a very like quirky, awkward person that finds herself in this kind of progressive bubble.
Are we gonna talk about the writing style before, or like do you want to do that now, or like?
I don't. Are there rules? How do
Well-
we do this? What are the rules? Producer Josh.
Okay,
what are the
what do we have
rules?
to? We have to talk about the plot. We haven't done that yet. We haven't talked about the characters.
We haven't even talked about who is this for.
Yeah,
Oh,
okay.
we haven't talked about who this for.
It's for me.
It's for me.
I kind of transitioned to it a little bit.
Yeah.
It is for, late 20s to early 40s range people.
I honestly think that was literally the exact demographic that I wrote down.
who kind of like fall into this
Yeah.
in the city progressive bubble.
I wrote it's HBO, so probably like 20s to mid 40s, not gender specific.
Can I make an observation?
Yeah.
So all of the shows I mentioned, they are very like progressive, left-leaning, liberal, whatever types of shows.
Question real quick, do you think they're meant to be progressive, or do you just think they're younger shows? Like they're written, produced, and created by younger people?
I think both, because this show specifically tackles things like race and sex life, things like that, right? That are inherently like liberal issues, right?
Two strong female leads?
Here's my
Well, I never.
here's my question. All
Yeah.
the shows we mentioned, Rami, Dave, Master of None, they all kind of fall in the same category.
Dave's a Little Dicky show?
Yeah.
I haven't watched it yet, but I heard it's great.
I'm sorry.
I haven't watched it.
One more time.
I haven't.
One more time.
I haven't watched that.
You
What?
just do it. Just do it for them. Just do it.
I've never seen that.
There's the zoom in. There we go.
Oh, he did it. He
Here-
finally said the name of the show in the show.
Here's my question for you.
Yeah.
Are there
Uh-huh.
like conservative counterparts to this type of show?
Yeah, we watched
where
them.
it's like a slice of life kind
Yeah.
of like, but it's all about.
Yeah, no. Not only have we watched them, but we've had this exact same conversation.
I can't think of one.
No, but we've thought of them as so comically absurd and out of the realm of possibility that we play it off as completely unrealistic, and it does feel that way.
Like what? What have we? I can't think of
Last
one.
Man Standing.
Last Man Standing doesn't count because Last Man Standing is a multicam sitcom that's like,
Oh,
I'm
okay. So
talking
you're saying like a
stylized,
single cam narrative,
kind of like dramedy comedy, but that's like in the vein of like someone who lives in New York.
Isn't
that's
it just the
conservative.
Facebook feed of that one girl that pooped her pants?
The gun girl?
Yeah, the gun. Isn't it just her Facebook lives?
Props,
Atlanta. That's another great one.
props to her for still trying.
Yeah, no.
The
How
gun-
you
the-
can-
the-
how you
the
can come back-
poopy pants gun girl.
Poopy pants gun girl.
Props.
How do you
Props
come-
for still
you-
trying.
You come back from that.
But honestly, like,
Like,
are,
no, I don't-
are there shows that are like the
I-
conservative counterpart to these kind of like serialized?
Okay, but what is like, what if you had to write that show right now? What do you even include in that show?
That's what I mean. I can't like all these shows oftentimes deal with sexuality, race, police violence.
In fact, I think we had all of those in our show.
Social issues that are inherently like
Part of the human experience.
part of like the left leaning
Yeah.
liberal agenda, right?
Yep.
There are no shows like that on the right side.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like, don't they all have to be like hyperbolized serial shows? Like, could you say that Mike and Molly is the counterpart?
But again, that's another multicam sitcom.
Yeah, because it has to be a fantasy. Because what would it be? Like, what? Like, literally, like, honestly,
Because-
what would it be? Like, you go to your manufacturing job, you come home, You go work as a plumber for 10 hours. You come home.
home
and you watch TV. It's like it would be watching a TV.
You come home and a BLM march happens to be coming down your street, and so you step onto your front yard with your rifle.
But that's.
I did not mean for this episode of the podcast to be so very political.
You're literally describing Gran Torino without the revelation. Like, that's what you're describing.
We have not been politically charged on an episode in a while.
Yeah, it's mostly just us complaining about Chuck Lorre.
It's mostly us just thinking about who's on our Mount Hunkmore.
Yeah, yep. Okay. But I want to say something about that because
that is a serious question. I don't think there is any show that is the equivalent to all the shows that we've mentioned, but with like a conservative perspective.
Off the top of my head, I definitely can't think of any,
They don't exist.
I'm gonna go down on a deep dive and see if I can find anything, but I don't think I will. But did you notice? Speaking of writing style and Issa Rae's writing style, did you notice how the dialogue in this show is actually normal people?
I made that in my notes.
It's actually the way people talk.
But when you, again, naming all of the shows I just named, like when you watch an episode of Rami, it's the same way.
Yep.
All of the dialogue is like, that's how you would talk to your parents. That's how you would talk to your best friends.
Yeah.
Like, it's very normal and natural. And like, I think that's why I like these shows because, you know, sometimes you don't want something that's like, I don't want to watch things explode, and I just want to watch something that's like normal.
I can't help but think of like episodes of like Gossip Girl, right? Like where like one character is like, "Oh, you just look like a dog that got dumped in a deluge outside of Cannes," and they're like, "Well, at least I'm not dangerously on the precipice of wearing something 8 seasons out of fashion." It's like no one fucking talks like that.
Sidebar question.
Yeah.
We watched an episode of Gossip Girl way back in the podcast.
A long time ago, yeah.
There is a reboot of Gossip Girl
I think we have to put it in the hat.
That just came out. Do we put it in the hat?
Yeah, we absolutely have to put it in the hat. It's on HBO, so I wonder what happened.
Technically it is different, but
I say yes.
I think so, yeah, right? It's got it.
Yeah.
I think so.
That makes sense. Okay. Yeah, again, I don't know what the rules of
should
this
we do like a YNST, where are they now?
I don't know what the rules of this podcast are.
How it changed?
Well, so I kind of briefly touched on who I think this show is for. I mean, I don't think there's like a...
I don't disagree with your assessment either.
I think it is a very, like, you know, progressive, liberal, young adult to late 40 or early 40s demographic.
I think one of the reasons these shows do so well, too, is because it's not, like, written... It's not written... it's not written like towards somebody. It's more like, hey, this is the experience, these are the experiences, these are things that I've lived, and like there are people who that resonate with, as opposed to someone sitting in a writer's room going like, yeah, X and like so and so demographic will eat this shit up.
There is a sense of authenticity and like genuine, like,
yeah,
it's written by people who have done the same things that you're doing, not written by like white suits that think that this is what you should be doing. Right?
Yeah, yes.
Like, and I think that's why I enjoy these shows so much. Yeah, I mean, I think we both. Oh, sorry, I gotta make sure my old mug is.
Stop ruffling it. Stop ruffling it. It's poor content for the audio listeners. Stop ruffling it.
Yeah, so I think we agree. Like, it is a kind of a. Do you think it's kind of a small target to hit demographic-wise? Because I mean, the show has been critically acclaimed. It's been nominated for awards. Issa Rae is like now become like a go-to name for this type of content.
I don't think it is. I think if it is, it's because probably when you start doing something like this, like the market, like it builds its own market, so to speak, or it illuminates a different part of it, right? Like if you write Young Sheldon, it's like Young Shelton, the story of Blake Shelton's origin. If you write Young Sheldon, you're like, like you already have the Big Bang Theory market, which the Big Bang Theory was already built on the Mike and Molly market, which was already built on the Spin City market, which was already built
these are all shows you can find on the audio podcast back in the catalog wherever you find your podcasts.
Yeah. How's that?
I think I just winked with both eyes.
That's a blink. You've described blinking. But like Young Sheldon is just another iteration of something we've seen a million times with a new couple of different quirks to it. This way to do slice of life drama comedy, dramedy.
I mean,
is relatively new. What I think
But
about
there's
like
a lot of. I mean,
but
what's
think
the-
about season 1 of Master of None,
Yeah.
right? Like how many people were like, I've never heard of that, and then they watch it and they're like, this show is amazing.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know why they're all like a very shocked old white man, but
there's a lot. I mean, even like Broad City was like that way.
Yeah.
where it was like that was a little more absurdist and kind of like ridiculous.
But there's
it
been
was
a
still
whole-
based on like two girls that live in two
two girls who have random experiences that they've never had in New York City, and they discuss the sex, the drugs, and the laughs they had along the way.
Oh boy.
I'm just trying.
Yeah, no, there is this kind of wave of shows that kind of are coming out in this demographic,
Yeah.
and I just find it humorous that there is not even an attempt to make like a conservative version of this.
Well, I think it just has to do with the fact that it's like it's more experimental, right? Like not to be too stereotypical or like rigid in the definition, but like it's more experimental, right? Like people who love absurdist comedy aren't the same people who are like, man, we got to do things by the book.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that lends some
The other
overlap.
The other thing that I find interesting about this, I guess we'll call it a genre, is that like typically these episodes are about nothing really. Right?
Yeah, really.
It's about going to a party. It's about swiping on Tinder, right?
Yeah.
There is no like
not being able to get into a restaurant you really wanted to get into is literally like 5 episodes of Master of None.
yeah. But like I think that's kind of the goal, is to like pull from these tiny insignificant shared experiences and then just like highlight that in a way that's like
Right.
Yeah, everyone has like gone on a blind date and then the person sucks.
Yeah, I can tell you I have absolutely shown up I have absolutely shown up to like meeting up someone that I met off of like a dating app and gone like and had them be like, do you look like that?
Man,
Like that actually happened in the show, and like I've had not that exact
Right,
experience, but
yeah.
like a similar experience.
so I'm getting married in November. I don't know when you're listening to this, so
Either congratulations or
I guess congratulations.
yeah, it
either.
works either way,
But producer Josh has completely missed the Tinder online app dating era.
You're saying because he's been married.
He's been married-
for- yeah,
he's
happily married for
a long time.
A long
and so
time.
like,
Which, by the way, congratulations. See, it works both ways.
but like as I was watching this, I was like, man, like I do not miss the days of swiping, and like those were awful
Yeah.
days. And then I was thinking to myself like, man, producer Josh probably is like so disconnected from this because he's never had to do this. Me and you have been through this, but you know,
I mean, if I'm going to be completely honest, I've never been to a kiss and grind party before.
I have a
so
lot of questions about kiss and grind.
So
Okay, let's
let's get into the
let's fast forward. Let's hit
The plots.
Let's
Let's
hit
just talk about plots.
Let's hit the characters quick.
Oh, okay, the characters, sure.
The character list is pretty manageable. Obviously the show is about a character named Issa, who is also the name of the person who created it, Issa Rae.
Yeah.
Her name in the show is Issa D.
Yeah.
The show is kind of based around her two best friends.
What's Aziz's character in Master of None? What's his character's name?
I don't remember.
Yeah, producer Joshua will look it up for us.
It's about her and her two friends, Molly and Kelly. And then there are kind of a sprinkling of other characters that they meet along the way. They have, a bunch of other hunky dudes that are in the show.
There are a bunch of hunks, yeah.
We meet a guy named Lawrence. We meet a guy named Chad. There's another guy named Daniel.
Dev.
Alejandro
Yeah, there it is.
or Dro.
Dro.
Yeah. And these are all just kind of like a rotating cast of, I'm assuming, guys that come and go.
Yeah.
The show seems to be very much about Issa, Molly, and Kelly, and like their adventures in LA.
I don't even know how much Kelly is involved, or if I question like if she. I wonder how many of these people are like episode or like arc specific kind of, and how many are like, for example, Dro. Do you think he is arc specific?
I think Dro and Lawrence and maybe Chad seem very like central.
But you think
characters.
you think they're season like you think they're serial? Like you think they're even in season 5?
I mean,
do you see all of them being? Do you see Kelly being in season 5? Molly and Issa, I see them being in season 5, and I guess I would say maybe Lawrence.
Yeah, I mean, we
Maybe.
meet a guy named Daniel, who seems to be kind of the guy that is very like just storyline. Like he just happens to be part of this specific storyline.
Yeah. Yep.
But it does seem like there's just a cast of men that rotate through, you know.
Yeah.
It just seems to be like they literally say in the beginning that Issa is working on getting back into her hoe phase. Did you have a hoe phase?
Yeah.
I so wish I could have kept that straight face.
Okay.
Let's try that again.
Yeah. Okay.
Did you? No. I can't think of you having a hoe phase.
Oh no, it's my hoe phase. I mean,
I
don't.
Bellamy, I think the character is not for you. Haas, do you want to give it a shot?
Okay.
I think roles reverse. I
Sure.
think
All right. Let's get. Did you have a
I can't
hoe? I can't. You're
yeah.
right. I can't.
But to answer your question, no.
Well, I don't. I mean,
It's just I don't know. I was never like.
but here's the thing. I think that
I was
this
never
is
like
why,
swipe. That was never my game.
But I think that this is why this sort of like
I'm getting married.
show. Yeah. Nope. If your fiance is watching or listening, please turn this off.
Hi, I love you.
No, I think that this is like this is why Slice of Life works so well, though, is because even if you never had a hoe phase, or if your hoe phase wasn't about empowering your sexuality, like it seems to be in Issa's case, like producer Josh missed dating apps altogether. You're getting married,
right?
Like maybe we had hoe phases, maybe we didn't. Maybe we didn't call them hoe phases, but like we can all appreciate
I want
the
to
experience being shown.
I call that MySpace.
Right.
You know what? To be fair, you're not wrong.
I want to comment on one thing you said. So there is this weird thing where
I have to comment on something real quick though.
Sure.
Which is that the reason why I never had a hoe phase was because 303 told me to never trust a hoe. And that means don't trust me.
Friends of the show.
Longtime friends of the show. Black dress. No one can even see it. Audio format or video. Producer Josh is throwing up the 303.
Oh man. If only we're gonna do a live show one day.
Yes. Can we go back and get a slice of life of that era of time?
Tag a friend in the comments and we'll pick a random person to be selected for the studio audience.
Yep.
Okay, my point was I wanted to get in really quick.
Yeah.
There is this thing when you're writing where especially when you're writing like a comedy, like if you're writing like a comedy set.
Yeah.
The initial instinct for new comedians is to write something that's very broad. Write jokes that are like everyone will understand.
Serial, we've all had that.
Because they're broad, right? What's the deal? You know?
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, it's oftentimes reversed, where, like, if you write a joke that is very specific to your story, it's much more engaging, and people will find the nuggets that, like...
Well, people find common ground naturally.
Right. And
the
so,
commonality.
Like, ironically, writing something that is very specific is much more impactful than trying to write...
I can tell you, I've never been to a singles event, Kiss and Grind in L.A.
Right.
But
there are probably some things in this episode that you were like, oh, yeah, like...
Issa Rae being awkward as fuck. I'm like, oh, yeah. Yep. Yeah. Okay. All right.
I think that is why I enjoyed this so much, is because, like, I am so incredibly awkward and uncomfortable.
It's almost as if we're so awkward we made a podcast. Like, what? People know. Cameras and microphones, sign me up.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty... Oh, I guess we didn't mention Felix. He's kind of... Felix is obviously one...
He's just this episode.
But his character, there's a couple things I mentioned about him.
Yeah.
There are a lot of... you mentioned the dialogue in this show and how it feels very real.
Very real.
There are so many, like, jokes that are so quick.
Yeah.
That happen. You're like... There's a moment where Molly refers to Felix as Cat Bay.
Yeah.
And it happened so fast that I didn't even realize it. I was like, did she just... Oh, Felix the cat.
Yeah.
She calls him Cat Bay.
And then she says... And then I believe...
funny.
And then I believe she says, you trying to fuck a cat.
It happened so fast.
Then
great.
Then when they're at the bump and grind, kiss and grind, when they meet Dro, or when he like shows up there, he's like, oh, good for you three showing up looking like Destiny's Child. And then they're like, who's Michelle? And then they just like look at each other.
Yeah, that we'll get to that when we get to the plot. What are the three or three kind of
Main plots?
main plots that you highlighted in this episode.
Okay, so the main plots that I had was Issa is single and she's going to a kiss and grind event.
Okay.
Which I believe is just an extension of the previously on.
Yep.
The extension of the hoe phase. She set her hoe phasers to stunning.
Yep.
Anyway,
Okay, sure.
The second plot that I had,
We're gonna leave that one.
we'll leave that one in. The second plot that I had,
So stupid.
this
podcast is so stupid.
that bridges the gap between last week's sci-fi and this week's slice of life. Okay, I'm trying.
Yes. That is the one thing keeping people here is bridging the gap
bridging the gap
episode to episode.
Yes, between Lost in Space and Insecure. I would say the second, like the B plot is, I think that it probably shakes down this way, which is the A plot is usually Issa or Molly, and then the B plot is whichever one the A plot isn't.
Mm-hmm.
And in this one, the B plot I would say is Molly and Dro have a history,
Yeah.
and they might be banging,
Right.
and that's kind of like that. And then
the C plot's my favorite.
But there's even like I think that this might be like this. It's almost like there's an A plot that is Issa, Kelly, and Molly having these different experiences, being single and going to this event.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second plot, the one that's unconnected from that in any way, is that Lawrence has
Lawrence has a threesome
Lawrence
with two
has a
white chicks.
threesome.
With
No,
two white chicks.
No, with one white chick and an Asian girl.
Oh, she must be like...
she dyed her hair blonde.
She must be like a mixed...
I believe
okay.
she... Yeah.
Haley Kiyoko.
Yeah.
Okay.
As Miko.
Real quick, we didn't do this. May Dern bless you,
And also you.
and also you as well.
And with all of you.
Anyway, for those of you who don't know what we're talking about,
Watch some of the last episodes.
um,
And ask yourself why we just have a Laura Dern prayer candle just sitting here? Like, that didn't stick out to you guys?
May Dern bless you all.
Yes.
Let's.
And now a reading from the Book of Dern, chapter The Last Jedi. I don't actually know.
We should actually
Get those quotes and
get those books printed.
and bless people. The Book of Dernism.
Let's kind of briefly break down some of these plots.
Yeah.
I feel like the entirety of this show is kind of loosely based on Issa trying to navigate the dating scene and like teeter between like that weird age of like, am I just hooking up or am I looking for the one?
And
right?
what and more so, there's like the point where we all kind of define what that means to us.
And all of us in our, mid 30s, that this is like the pinnacle of like, am I done with my hoe phase and should I be looking for the one? And I think that's like, it is such a relatable experience, right? Like, not for Josh because he's been married for a long time. We get it.
Well, but also, I mean, it doesn't really matter when you get married or anything like that. It's just like the difference of like, when are you like, and she even bridges it in this episode where I'm pretty sure she hooked up with Daniel at some point.
Yep.
And like, something
happened that must have been bad.
It seems like that was when she was really embracing her hoe phase, and she probably like hoed it up with him and then ghosted him. And then he was probably like not stoked on that. And then now you see them like they end up back in the same room, in the same place, in the same spot, and like you start to like it becomes one of those questions.
There's so many things about this A plot with Issa on Tinder that like I just get flashbacks of like me swiping and like meeting up with people. And like you get so excited for these dates when they actually happen, and then like you tell all your friends, you're like, yeah, I'm meeting up with this girl, it's gonna be great, she seems really cool, and then you meet and it's like awkward as hell. You notice immediately that there's zero chemistry. And then it's just like, okay, we just spent several days texting and never meeting, and then now I meet you and it sucks. And it's like that experience is so specific to Issa Rae, but like the show is like, hey, has this happened to you?
Yeah.
Like,
it's almost like someone was like, all right, category bad date, everyone tell a story.
But so let's off of that, like, how easy would it be to be like, okay, let's write an episode where they go on a bad date, and like they go on a bad date, and she spills
And
the coffee.
the waiter throws the spaghetti.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like the date is terrible, but like this is literally they meet. She tells all her friends about how cute Felix is. They finally meet, and immediately he's like,
No chemistry. It's literally like she makes a joke to break the ice about his profile saying phallics, and he just doesn't get it.
and that's like so much more real than like overly exaggerated version of a bad date could be.
Yes.
And it's also like it hurts way more
Yes.
than a bad date would be. Like,
but like that very scene is so funny because he makes she makes that comment and instantly no chemistry.
yeah.
Right? None. And like you realize that like someone else, like if someone said that to me on a first date, I'd probably be like, huh, okay, all right, you're pretty funny. Like that's funny. And then when he does I think I'm just gonna go over there.
Yeah.
And then he goes over there and she does wait, you guys going that way? I'll go that way.
She
Like,
just follows strangers.
she follows strangers. Like that's so funny to me.
I really enjoy Issa's relationship with her two besties.
Yeah.
Like I honestly wonder if like these are actresses or if they actually are just best friends that she picked.
I was gonna say I wish
It
if
feels
we can,
very real and organic and just like
if we can ask soon to be longtime friend of the show Issa Rae
Sure.
anything, it would be I would like to know, like, are you writing these off of actual experiences or are you just like
no, I mean just specifically like
Kelly and
Molly and Issa, like, are they all actually best friends, or are Molly and Kelly?
It looks like Molly has quite a resume.
So they're
for
just
acting,
actresses that happen to be perfect for the part. Because I love their relationship. Like, back to what you said, like all of their dialogue sounds like the way that best friend. Like, I know girls that talk like this.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like they go out and this is the way they talk.
Well, what's funny too is then like there's a moment where There's 2 points in the show where Chad calls Lawrence, and even that seems
Even
like
that-
normal.
Like, I'm just thinking about all the times that we have called each other, our good friend Brian, like, we will call each other for literally no reason and just to make fun of each other. And that's
Yeah.
like what Chad and Lawrence do. Like, he calls
Yes.
him to ask him if he's going to the party.
Yeah.
But then it turns into just like a nothing conversation.
Yeah.
Which is
And where another conversation in which Chad hypes up Lawrence for absolutely no reason in the exact same manner in which any conversation with Brian becomes him hyping you up for absolutely no reason.
so, man. So the Issa storyline kind of cultivates in her also after her meetup with Felix completely fails.
Completely bombs.
She notices a hunk from across the party.
She notices the hunk prior to meeting up with Felix.
Right.
Yeah.
But then decides to approach him, and this is who we now know as Daniel.
Yeah.
We know that they had a history, that they may have been on a few dates. Something happened. Something happened where it didn't end well.
Yeah.
Because they have this weird beef, but it seems like
it's one of those things where like it seems like there was something happened, but he actually plays it like really cool, and you could tell he's like not like a storyline meant to be drama inducing, not like edge of your seat, reel you in, like, oh, I'm cool, but then he throws something at the wall and oh, it's not cool. Like it's nothing like that. He's like, no, it's cool, it happens, and
or I wonder if it's a situation where like he doesn't think that like he did anything, and like she think like maybe he ghosted her, and like
oh, see, I thought maybe she ghosted him,
or whatever. Like it could be in a situation where like whatever happened is a big deal to her and not a big deal to him because he just doesn't know. And again,
we
very real situation that happens all the time. Right?
What I kind of like about this is I don't know if that's a real situation because this show is vague and it shows that life is vague, or we just watched one episode of a random television show we've never watched before, and we have no context.
How is it that line comes up in this podcast
It's literally
all the time,
every single episode,
and it makes me laugh every time because then I realize like, oh yeah,
because it's
we
so
don't
true.
know shit.
We're making all these assumptions about like, yeah, maybe she ghosted him in the hoe phase, or like maybe he is a bad boy. But like, we have no idea, and we couldn't. How would we know?
So I'm gonna make a quick random Very random. I
Uh-huh.
was looking up the actor.
The guy who plays Daniel?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he was in a movie called Slice with Paul Scheer, Zazie Beetz, and Chance the Rapper.
Huh.
It's a comedy thriller or comedy
Slice.
fantasy
Slice.
crime. Yeah.
Okay.
I would watch. I'd kind
I
of
mean, I'm what they would call a Zazie Beetz stan.
I am also, yes.
Same.
Yeah,
I think we
add it to our personal watch list.
Yeah, yep. You said that as if Josh manages a watch list for us. He actually doesn't produce just this show. He produces our entire lives.
Yeah.
The camera turns off, the lights shut down, and we just sit here until he comes and takes the headphones off.
When the podcast ends, we just sit here until he comes back and we start the podcast again. The Issa plot kind of ends when there's an end scene where they all meet up at a diner, and she ends up seeing Daniel again at the diner.
Yep.
This is after addressing him.
Yeah.
And
Can we wait on the reveal on this one though until we get to Kelly's
Yeah.
story? Okay.
But when she addresses him, she meets up with Kelly, and she makes it like this big deal, like, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna address him. We're gonna squash this shit.
Yeah.
And then when she actually does address it, it's like nothing.
Super awkward. Yeah.
It's like all this build up, and then she gets there, and then he's just like, he's with his homies, and they're just like, hey.
Yeah, and she's like, "Hey, sorry
like
that happened," and he's like, "No, it's cool."
and
Well,
then that was it.
he literally hits her with the, "Well,
See ya."
enjoy the party."
We'll kind of wrap up her storyline, because the ending of this episode is kind of the wrap up of most of the storylines.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Kelly and Alejandro or Dro.
No, Molly, not Kelly. Molly and Dro.
Yeah. That is a very interesting.
It's a Pandora's box, that's for certain.
So the entire episode revolves around them going to an event called the Kiss and Grind,
Yeah.
which
Which they didn't play Bump and Grind for reasons which I
didn't-
completely understand, but I
didn't
was half
know-
expecting it.
I didn't know what this event was. It seems to. I thought maybe it was just.
I think it's just kind of like a mixer, right? Like a single.
Is it just like a? Is it just like a club night, or is this like
think
an
it's- yeah.
event, or is that because it feels like it takes place during the day? They go to the.
I think it's one of those things where it starts during the day and goes into the night, right?
I mean, I'm not part of the club scene,
Right,
so-
but how many times have you heard of like a networking event that starts as like people being like, yeah, we'll give you the contract to whatever, and then by like 9 p.m. everyone's just hammered.
everyone's horny.
Yeah, hammered and horny. The Kiss and Grind, it's a real thing? Oh my god. Josh, is
Okay,
this a
so
real
maybe
thing?
Kiss and Grind is like in L.A.
It might be like an LA event
BET
thing.
Awards. I'm sure. Oh, that actually makes sense.
Yeah.
The name of the episode is Hella L.A. So
Yeah.
maybe Kiss and Grind is like a
An
famous
LA thing. Like an emo night, like emo night was.
That answers all of our questions.
Yeah, so literally so many of my questions answered.
Producer Josh, he's on top of it.
That's why he's here.
Anyway, you were saying.
Now let us sit and stare at nothing.
You were saying about Molly.
Just that I thought that Molly was like the sensible friend when this started, right? Like I thought it was
neither. There is no
that's the-
sensibility.
That's the thing. We've watched so many like serialized
They're all
written
their
in a
hoe
writer's
phases.
room. We've watched so many of those that the fact that like Molly is equally like I don't know what the fuck's going on. Like it didn't occur to me. I thought she was like the straight man in the group.
One thing that we find out is that their relationship, Molly and Dro, they've known each other since kids. Since they were little kids.
Their whole lives. They
we
went
find
to school
out
together.
we find out that Dro is married,
Married.
and that he is plot twist in an open marriage.
Well, we find out about that in a really interesting way that I thought was super cool for our episode because they set it up and it wasn't meant like long time now friend of the show Issa Rae didn't set it up this way intentionally, but it really worked for us watching just one episode.
Right.
Which was that when Molly and Dro like meet up, they hang out and you can tell they're like friendly already. And then they go out onto the dance floor together, and we know that Dro is married because they mention it in the episode. But they go out on the dance floor together, and they start grinding. There was no kissing, but there was grinding.
Here's the thing that I want to jump into before you finish, is that
Yeah.
their whole interaction, you'd never get a sense that there is
No, they have
any,
the
like,
chemistry of friends.
yeah, you for 100% feel like there's a part where he's like her wingman and he's like pointing out hot dudes and
Yeah.
she's like yes or no or whatever. But it's not even like in a flirty way. It's very much in a genuine like
We've been friends forever. What about that guy?
you get the vibe that there is zero sexual chemistry at all.
Which is, and then they dance together and like,
And even then you're like
the funny
they're
thing is,
still just friends.
yes, the funny thing is I watched that and I didn't get any sexual tension from that whatsoever. My lizard brain was like that breeds sexual tension because we've watched so many shows and it's like a formula now that I'm like, oh, that builds sexual tension. But then when I watched it, I was like,
You know what it was?
But not really.
You know what it was?
What?
Slow motion for me.
It was slow motion. You're right though. It was. They played that song and I was
Well,
like, huh.
they're like fun dancing, right? They're doing like fun. He does a dance called the Mega Man where he
Yeah.
goes. Poo, 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 poo.
Yeah.
He's like shooting off of his like Mega Man arm, and like it's like fun, and then all of a sudden slow motion plays, and it just gets instantly sexy.
Yeah. Well, she even brings up Genuine's pony, and I was like,
Slow motion for me. Slow motion for me.
yeah.
Show me a situation where that song plays and it doesn't get horny.
You know what? I wish we could do a super cut right now of like filming just like average people doing average things and then just play that over it.
You're at a dentist waiting office, and they're
And
like,
then you just hear the
you're at a dentist waiting office, and the nurse comes out, and she's like, Mike, and the whole time it's slow motion.
root canal.
Slow motion for me is just playing.
Cuts
in
to
the,
me just sweating and like dabbing myself dry.
what if the Muzak system was just sexy songs at the dentist office?
Oh, like Back to One by Brian McKnight and like just like
Lots of Boys to Men. Anyway, that song plays. It gets very sexy, and then
Yeah.
immediately the audience is like,
pony, obviously.
the audience is like, wait a minute, are they gonna?
Are they gonna?
No,
No,
but they're
but
just,
they're
they're
friends.
childhood
They're
friends.
friends, but
They
they're-
wouldn't.
but-
And then the grinding gets grindier and grindier, and you're
Yeah.
like, oh, wait a minute, are they?
They're good.
And then,
then-
she cuts it off.
Yeah,
and she's like,
which makes sense because they're
Right.
friends. They're just friends.
Yeah.
He's
And-
married and they're friends.
and then that's
She wouldn't. His wife wouldn't appreciate that.
that's where the rest of the episode turns into will they, won't they?
Well, because then that's when he drops the bomb. We're in an open marriage.
Not only we're in an open marriage, but like, he kind of wants to fuck.
Oh yeah, no, he makes it very apparent that he trying
He's trying to.
fuck. Yeah. Okay, so we'll finish up this storyline because this happens and then it goes.
Something about us going.
Trying to fuck.
It's just so stupid. This podcast is
Well,
so stupid.
could you imagine if he was like if they were at the event and she was like, I don't know, and then he was like, yo. Like,
But that's
that
kind of
would-
what happens.
yeah,
A little bit.
yes, yeah.
So let's wrap up this storyline.
Yeah, so this storyline really like comes in and out. Like when they go to leave to go to the diner at the end of the episode, she goes over and says bye to him. Like Molly comes over and explains everything to Issa and Kelly about him being in open marriage and trying to fuck. and the thing is, Issa and Kelly were like, "Wow, I think that's weird too, but I guess there's nothing wrong with that."
And then that just sets all the gears in her brain to be like, maybe there isn't anything wrong with that.
And then when they go to leave, she sees him and she says like, "Hey, we're getting out of here. I'll talk to you later." And then he texts her when they're at the diner and was
Can
like,
we talk about the Destiny's Child joke one more time?
"One more time, yeah."
So they are the ladies are kind of around this table having their drinks.
Wait, did the ladies leave the man at home?
they did.
Yeah, because that club,
It's
that-
11:30.
Yeah, that club was full of ballers,
Yeah.
and it looked like their pockets were full grown. And the fellas in this show, they left their girls with their friends.
They're jumping.
Yeah.
But he shows up and he makes a joke that they all look like Destiny's Child, and at first it's funny, they all laugh, and then I think it might have been Molly. She's like, "Well, which one of us is Michelle?" And then nobody answers.
Everyone looks at each other.
because no one wants to be the Michelle.
Well,
which
no, the
is
best
so
part is
sad.
The best part is,
Was it Kelly? Yeah.
yeah,
And which is sad because there's nothing wrong with Michelle.
Well, yeah, no, they say
we
who's-
get it. You're not Beyonce, but like, you're still Destiny's Child.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's one of those like quick jokes that is just like.
Well,
which
the best
made
part, the best part is that it actually encapsulated like an actual human interaction where he's like, "Hi, y'all look like Destiny's Child," which is just a funny thing to say, and
Yeah.
then Molly says, who's Kelly? And they all look at Dro, and he's like, no, I'm not gonna.
And then he just leaves.
Yeah, he doesn't say anything, and then that's when Molly points at Kelly, and Kelly just flicks him off.
The last and kind of most interesting storyline.
Hold on, real quick. Can we talk about Kelly real quick?
Yeah.
Kelly is the I'm gonna go like she's the kitty hungry I be hunting.
Right.
That's her personality. And the whole point is she meets somebody, yada yada yada. They go to the diner at the end of the episode, and the reason Issa goes and sits with Daniel is because Kelly is getting fingered under the table by the guy she met.
And everyone notices.
Everyone notices, and Daniel actually texts Issa and is like, yo, is your girl getting fingered under the table? And they just like look at each other like,
So that scene is incredible on so many levels because
thank you.
There's a moment where I forget who is talking, but they stop talking mid-sentence.
Yeah, it's Kelly.
Yeah, she stops talking mid-sentence, and then all of a sudden, like, you as the viewer don't know what's happening.
Yeah, she says it's a cheat day and stops talking.
And then the camera kind of pans around to each person, and
there was a moment where I was like, did someone fart? What are they doing?
Yeah. And so for like a good 30-ish seconds, you don't know what's going on, and then when the reveal happens, you're like, oh my god, that is incredible.
The best thing is it cuts back to Kelly, and you can tell now that you know what's happening, you see it, and then she just barely breathfully says, it's a cheat day. Thank you.
Oh boy. Let's quickly talk about Lawrence's storyline. So
Lawrence's storyline is arguably the best storyline.
The show clearly deals with social issues like race and police and all that. And this is kind of where we get a glimpse into that. But we also get a very specific thing of women, I don't even know how to talk about it. Women that fetishize sleeping with a race other than their own.
Yeah, yeah.
Specifically black men.
You know what? Here's the thing. I don't even necessarily think that it doesn't necessarily apply just to women. Like there are men who are like, Asian women are so hot, and you'd be like, why are Asian women hot? And they got nothing for you.
There's a line between like, okay, we're gonna have to peel the comedy mask away and have a actual comedy. Yeah. But the line between like who you find personally attractive as a preference, and then fetishizing an entire race it gets very.
It's definitely a blurry area.
But there are.
Robin Thicke tried to warn us. Takes the comedy mask back on.
Mask back on. So Lawrence,
but a future mask back off.
Right. Lawrence's storyline ends up with him, in LA traffic, which in my notes I said fuck LA traffic.
Yeah.
It's like genuinely
They made a joke about closing roads because of some stupid ass like bike marathon.
Right.
And then Lawrence is stuck in this stupid ass bike marathon.
So he ends up pulling a U-turn, gets pulled over, and
this is honestly like this is why Lawrence's storyline is like probably he deals with.
Well, his is also separate from the other two.
Yeah, it's separate from the event, but it's just funny because he deals with the fetishization of black men, but also getting pulled over.
Right. Yeah. And so he gets pulled over by a white cop.
The one thing to mention too is two other cars in front of him did the
same thing.
He got pulled over.
Right. And it's like it is such a. It seems like that wouldn't happen, but like.
But it also
it does, and it would.
The funny thing, not haha funny, but like the nuance of Issa Rae writing this is that he gets pulled over. He's driving a Jaguar.
Right.
He is not driving. He's driving a very nice car. He's dressed very nicely.
Yeah.
He happens. I think he's listening to Kendrick.
Yeah.
While he gets pulled over, and he turns it to classical music.
Yeah.
And there's like for just a brief second, I thought I was gonna be like, ha, that's humorous. And then I was like, oh, no, wait, I know what's coming.
Yeah, you know.
And
like,
then the worst part is,
fuck.
The worst part is the cop's a dick to him. Like, we all expect the cop to be a dick to him.
Right.
But he's a dick to him in such a precise manner that it hurts on a new level.
Yeah, well, so the one thing to note that is kind of important is that as he's giving his driver's license, his credit card falls out in between the seats. He doesn't know.
Yeah, he spills all of his
cards. That comes into
cards.
play later on.
Yeah.
The cop returns, gives him a warning, and all of a sudden is cool.
Yeah, that's the thing that like that's the moment where it was like it went from being a joke to being
Too
an
real.
actual
Too real.
to being like an actual archetype to being too real, because when he wants to look for his credit cards when he drops them, and there's suddenly another officer on the other side of the car yelling, "Leave your hands where I can see them," with his hand on his gun.
Yeah.
And that's where you're like, oh,
I thought it was going to escalate into a different direction.
and it could,
which it didn't.
And that was the whole point of that scene, was to make you feel that way. And then you're like, oh, went completely different. And then the other cop comes back and is like, well, I give you a warning, but I should give you a ticket. And then Lawrence is just like, yeah, thank you. Like, thank you for giving me a warning.
Even though he's in the clear, he's still very compliant.
Yeah, and he's like, thank you. And then the guy, it almost seems like the cop goes out of his way to like prove the authority in an unthreatening situation by being like, I should give you a ticket for being a fan of that other basketball team. Haha, I might kill you.
God damn it.
And like that's that's the emotion that you get watching
Because,
that,
like,
which is why it goes from being like an archetype in writing to being too real.
Well, he makes a joke about our team last year murdered you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Killed you.
Yeah.
And he thought it was funny.
yeah.
It's a very subtle use of language, but it's like
but it's intentional.
The power dynamic is that like, yeah, the cop is being nice to me, and yeah, I got let off with a warning, but he's still a
But
cop.
he's only being nice to me because I'm being compliant and subservient. And if I weren't, then this would go a different way.
So this ends up with him going to the liquor store to get some booze to pregame.
Yeah,
and,
to go meet up with Chad.
And since he doesn't have his card, he can't pay for the booze. The two horny girls behind him in line end up paying for him.
Here's the thing. At first, I didn't know if they were going to do it because they were taking pity on him, but then very quickly it became, oh, no, they're super horny.
Because he's black.
Yeah.
Specifically because he's black.
Yeah, and here's the thing. Here's the thing. When they have the conversation, so they meet him up in the parking lot, and they're like, hey, like, what are you doing tonight? And I thought
it is very clear what is going to happen.
Yes. From that moment, it is very clear what is going to happen.
It is also very clear that they're doing it because he's black.
Yes.
Like, in my notes, I wrote, like, I know exactly where this is going.
Yes.
What I didn't know was the very next scene is just a straight up...
softcore porn? Softcore porn?
Can I say fuck fest?
Yeah, I was
Sure.
saying softcore porn, but yeah.
Like, they're all naked. She's sitting on his face. And everyone is doing it.
It is called the double cowgirl.
And I was like, whoa.
Wait, how did you find that so quick? You found the name and the illustration so fast.
I've had this tab preloaded for a while.
Oh, okay, that explains it. I didn't know it had a name.
So,
I learned something.
It is
today,
it is very clear the direction in which this is going.
Yeah.
And during this scene, the things that they say, you can tell he's getting uncomfortable, and even he himself starts to realize, like, oh, I know what this is. It's because I'm black. Right?
I actually made a comment when they first cut to the fuckfest where where I was like, oh, so it is an HBO show.
Yeah.
And then I said, well, it's definitely very uncomfortable because it's just about fetishizing a black guy.
I will say the amount of skill that it takes to write a scene like this where the visuals of what you're seeing, but you also feel bad for him because you know what he's going through mentally is like such brilliant writing of like he is almost feeling
it's crazy.
guilty.
It's crazy.
You can tell he feels guilty.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, you can tell that he feels guilty because after they're having this fuck fest, like they start insulting his ability to have sex.
I shouldn't have said.
Well, you shouldn't have because we know it's the double cowgirl. Right. After the double cowgirl, they start insulting his ability to have sex and then comparing him to another black man.
Ugh.
And
that part is so gross. You're
it's
just like,
so.
ugh.
And the thing is, like, it's totally written that way. They're like, oh, do you remember LaMarcus? He knew how to. And they use a very specific and very poignantly black name to point it out. And I was like, oh my god, that's so gross. And then they just start doing coke. So, and I'm like, yeah, that tracks.
So real quick, we'll kind of wrap this up. But there's also a moment where Chad calls him.
Yes, I wrote that down.
Chad calls him, and this is a moment of masculinity, right?
Yeah, yes.
Because he wants to say, like, yeah, it sucked because these girls, like...
They just used me to fulfill...
But instead, he quickly turns on the switch and was like,
yeah, dog,
man.
it was great.
Yeah, dog. And it's just like, that hurts.
Yeah,
because you
yes.
can tell that's not what he wants to say. He wants to say like,
I thought that was such a cool. I thought that was such a cool shot, and I don't know who like directs this or like how much Issa Rae is involved in like that sort of aspect of the production, but the fact that when it cuts to Chad and Chad is super hype and you hear him talking on the phone,
Chad in the bathroom.
Chad in the bathroom is so funny. Chad's character is great.
so
I love Chad's character. But like you hear Lawrence on the phone and
Yeah.
it sounds like he's like so hyped because yeah, dude, he just smashed it with 2 chicks
Yeah.
and like, man, good for him, right?
Right.
And you hear that, but then it cuts to the shot of him and you can see that his face is completely emotionless.
He's sitting alone in a car.
You can see that he's
in a
sitting
parking
alone
lot.
in a dark car, completely emotionless and like just like not at all. And it's so cool because it like I thought it was like, wow, what a cool way to show like how we present and what we actually feel are not at all the
Well,
same
it's just
thing.
like it's very weird to have a show like this show the vulnerability of being a man,
yeah.
and they do it in a way that's like so real.
Yeah.
Let's quickly go through Bang Bang Dead.
I don't think that's entirely fair because I think we could say all and maybe.
I don't think anyone dies. Everybody. There's probably sex in every episode.
I was gonna say if we've seen
It's
them on
probably
the show, they
explicit
probably
sex in every episode.
yeah.
The show is about, navigating the landscape of dating,
Yeah.
which in turn in LA culture as a young adult is sex, right?
Yeah, I think just any culture as a young adult that
So
has something to do with it.
what about this?
Yeah.
Dro and Kelly.
Yes.
I think so too.
Yeah, I think so.
I think so, and then I think it messes up the relationship with everything.
Yeah.
I think it happens, and then it messes everything up.
But here's the thing. I think it happens, and I think what it messes up is that, like, it becomes one of those things where, like, Dro is more than just physically
Yeah.
with someone else, and I think his wife is like, hey, if you're just, like, having sex with someone because I'm gone all the time, and we're okay with that, that's completely different than, like, being in love with someone who is around all the time. And I think, like, that, like, it brings in the whole idea of, like, emotionally cheating.
Yeah.
And I think that's totally
That's
a
what
direction this show would
yeah.
go.
I can start with my final thoughts. I mean, I think on the surface, this show is like a bunch of black girls living in LA and the wild things they do. But then, like, you dig deeper, and it's very like, it's relatable in a way that's like, real, authentic. Like, the things that they experience are the things that we've experienced to some extent. The way they handle certain situations is not like in your face. It's like you don't even realize it until you think about the episode again. You're like, oh yeah, that is why he said that or felt that way.
Yeah.
And like, it kind of leaves this emotional weight after you watch it, even though the show is like kind of silly and kind of ridiculous. And like, Issa Rae as a character is like comically like
awkward,
comically insecure.
Yeah.
Like,
is that why they call it that?
Wait,
did this one really happen too?
Chernobyl. I think this show was entirely what I thought it was going to be, and in a good way.
Yeah.
Again, all the shows that we mentioned earlier in the podcast, like, those are shows that I love.
Yeah.
And this belongs in that genre, and this was definitely... It's a show I'll probably watch. I have to watch *Halt and Catch Fire* first, but this is on the list for me, I think. Back-to-back
Out of 10?
nines.
You're out of 9.
Yeah, last week was a 9. This week's another 9.
You know what? I was also gonna give it a 9. I actually was. I was like, this is. I don't. I thought this show was so good because I can appreciate so much of this show as experiences that I share,
Right.
and ones that I don't share. Right. Like, I've never been pulled over and been racially profiled. I can see times in my life where, like, I'm like, yeah, I don't know if things would have gone as easily as they did if I weren't just a normal-looking white dude. Like, I am very Milkwater looking, and I think
there was that time where I called you right after your threesome, though.
Yeah, no, exactly. But see, that's the thing, though. Even though
I called you right after.
Even though I've never been, like, racially profiled when I've been pulled over, like, I have definitely had times in my life where people are like, boys don't cry.
Yeah.
And, like, you know, something similar where it's like, okay, maybe I don't share this experience, but I share that experience. I've never been to kiss and grind.
Right.
But I've definitely had an awkward, like, meet someone and there's absolutely no chemistry.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, this show is just, it's a slice of life from her perspective, which means it will have experiences that I don't have, and it will have some that do speak to me, and I watch it to be intrigued by the ones that I've never had to learn something,
Right.
and to feel related to by the things that I've gone through. And then they do it in a very funny way.
It's such a commitment to the writing.
Yeah.
So
Yes, I would say I will absolutely watch this show, and I'd give it a 9. I would also give it a 9. Back to back
to back. Well, that was our episode of Insecure. Producer Josh is going to dig into the hat to see what we're going to watch next week. As always, you guys know where to find us on the internet. YNST Podcast on Instagram. Search for us on YouTube. Watch it there for the full experience.
The full experience. You can.
Well, you can't see.
You can
this
see
on
the Laura
on the
Dern
audio.
candle. If you're using it in the audio format, you're just imagining the Laura Dern candle. If you're watching us, you can see it.
The easiest way to keep this show going for us is to tell a friend.
Yes.
If
Yeah.
there's a show that you watch or a show that you a friend of yours watches, tell them about it. See if they'll enjoy the podcast, and that helps us out a ton.
Or if you know of a single cam narrative, conservative leaning show that exists, mention it in the comments.
What are we doing next week?
Next show, we are watching
That's me doing a drum roll, by the way.
Yep.
Legion.
Oh, okay.
We're all
Okay.
dorks, and we're
Yeah.
all very excited for this.
Yeah.
Let's see. How many episodes?
We actually talked about this last week,
Yeah.
I think.
3 seasons.
3 seasons aired or 3rd season airing?
3rd season has already aired. I think a
Okay.
third and final has already aired.
Oh, okay. Perfect.
We are watching season. Nope.
It's.
Nope.
Are you
Roll
rolling?
the
Are you
six-sided
rolling a
die.
6-sided
3.
die?
I only
Okay.
have 2 dice over here.
Oh,
We need to get 'em
We need to get you
the
more
full
dice.
set.
Yeah.
Season 3.
We got 8 episodes.
We are watching episode 5, entitled Chapter 24.
Oh, okay. Well, that should be easy enough.
Here's the best part. Episode description. David wages war.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay. Legion.
That's all we got.
We're watching. This was Insecure.
Yep.
HBO's Insecure.
Yep.
Next week we're watching Legion.
I'm not even sure what network it's on.
I
but,
don't even know.
Join us next week. We will see you then. As always, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Tell a friend. We'll see you then. See ya.
I was gonna say more, but that rhymed so well.
Oh, I don't
was
know.
like, well, bye.